Well, can you believe it? We're back online again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome and
Yay.
hello, greetings and salutations to one and all, and welcome to Network Now. It's a podcast designed to help you build business connections and create opportunities. But my name is Lee Foster. I'm your host for this afternoon of Revitalise Connecting People. And with me today are my co-hosts, Julie Taylor and Louisa Stewart of Blue Ninja Business Support. How are you both doing, ladies? Louisa, over to you.
Very, very well, thank you, Lee. For those that missed our first podcast during International Networking Week, Network Now is a podcast established to help network well, to build connections, create opportunities, share knowledge, and receive trusted advice from network and business professionals across the globe. This podcast will give you great insight and tips to better engage with your networks and build up your networking skills using different tools and techniques. You can find us on Anchor FM and Spotify.
Brilliant. Thank you
And
so much, Louisa. Julie, would you like to share a few words?
yeah, so this week, all week, we're going to talk about how to find your network. And we're really honoured. We're going to have some great guests this week. So coming up tomorrow, we've got Amanda Johnston. She's from VACT UK. What she doesn't know about VAs, you don't need to know about. She's an expert in her field. So we're looking forward to hearing from her. Then we've got Celia Thor coming up on Wednesday. Again, a real networker. She's astonishing, the network she and the group she manages. And then we've got Ashley Owens, who's a contact of yours, Lee. So we're looking forward to meeting her. I've not got my teeth in today. So yes. So how to find your network? Every business needs a network.
We do indeed. We do need to find a network that we have to deal with, and we also have to make sure that we're tapping into the right network that works for you. And I think it's a bit of test and measure, though, Julie and Louisa. Would you not agree with that?
Definitely. You've got to try something out. If you see that a networking group looks interesting contacts, why not go? Why not attend? If you don't go, you'll never know. So yeah, you've got to try it. So and reach out to people in that group and see what they benefit from that group as well. So yeah.
And I think for everyone, make sure you're following us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube on the Revitalise and Blue Ninja social media, just so you catch everything. And I think with today, we'll be discussing our own networks because both of us have our own networks that we've established and a bit of background about why we set them up, which is, I think, some people want to build networks and other people want to network. So there are two sides of this, which we thought we'd cover this week. So Lee, tell us about your network, Revitalise Connecting People. What is it? How did it start? Where did it come from?
Thanks very much, Louisa. Cheers, Julie. Revitalise was created back in June 2017. I came from a corporate background. I've been involved in travel, in the car industry, in the hospitality industry, and I started a role in the early part of 2017. What I found when I was out and about networking, meeting people, more importantly, starting conversations, where it all starts from with networking. I was looking and I was trying to find somewhere where you could make some long-standing business relationships. And as my dad always told me, never burn a bridge, son, because you never know when you need to walk over that bridge at some point in your life. So the whole life and the whole career for me has always been about building, nurturing, cultivating great, long-lasting business relationships. So in June 2017, I launched Revitalise. It turned out to be a networking event with a different type of vibe through it. It was designed around people. It was designed around relationships. It was designed around making sure that people really tapped in to find out more about them. There's 21 people at the Fenwick Hotel on the M77 on towards Ayrshire. And the 21 people came along, had a great time. But the beauty that happened on that day was those quality conversations. It was bridging the gap. And by August of that year, there was now 69 people in the room. So it expanded over 2 months to really help individuals. And there's been many business connections. Can't get my teeth in today as well, Julie. But there's many people in business connections that I met then that I'm still keeping in touch with right now. And by October of that year, there was 129 people in the ballroom at the back of the Fenwick Hotel in Ayrshire. Now, the beauty was, and what I noticed once, was that people had not just their business cards. They didn't just have their notebooks open. They weren't just writing notes down. They were actively listening, and they were really nurturing great relationships. And most importantly, began with a stepping stone effect. So Revitalise was built upon being a people-focused network, because that's where it all starts from, and it's where it keeps going to. And over the last few years, I've created its own RBC network and development program, where it makes business professionals effectively network better, to be able to grow their business and to be able to build, nurture revenue through their business, through effective networking skills. And I think it's so important. Business relationships, business development takes time to really create. And it's a bit like doing a marathon. You're probably not able to run 26 miles off the cuff straight away, but it takes time to build upon it, to learn from it, and also to really gain from people's knowledge and skills that you have around you. Now, networking, people used to say, it's not about who knows you, it's about what you know. You heard that phrase before? It's not who you know, what you know. I believe, and I say this quite regularly, it is more importantly about who knows what you know. Every single time, networking should be part of an educational piece. Every month that you meet somebody is completely different. So Revitalise is built upon 4 real cornerstones: being accountable, being engaged, being active, and most importantly, being visible in your networks.
So you wouldn't walk into a networking event with a sales pitch, I guess. There's a bit more to it, isn't there?
Yeah, I think there is, Louisa. It's a great question. It's a real good question to put in there. There's many people that will go out there and sell to the room. They'll sell to the room. Now, there's 2 angles to this as well, Louisa, if you mind me digressing slightly. There's the farmers and there's the hunters. Now, the hunters are really going in to sell to the room 24/7 every single time. And they move from one network to the next to the next. And before you know it, they've gone through all the networks. Networking in general should be farming. You should be looking for the opportunities. You should be delving into conversations. Your introduction should be an introduction to you, not just the company or what you're selling. The selling part of it should become natural, organic. People need to like you, trust you, really get to know you better. Why would anybody pass their business to you or take your product, take the sale, if they don't really know you that well? It was a good one on there, Louisa.
Yeah.
And it goes back, there's a really good phrase of when you get talking to people, it's about being interested instead of interesting. It's about asking questions. It's about getting to know people. And sometimes, when they tell you about their business and you think, oh, there's going to be no similarities at all, but you just don't know until you get into conversation about, where you're based, who do you know, how you became to do your business. You just don't know until you start having that conversation. You can't make assumptions on the type of business and where they're located, that there's no connections whatsoever.
There's a big one that comes into it as well, Julie. I think there's a lot of people don't set out the right objectives to achieve from the networking. They don't set an objective of who they want to meet. Identify their target audience, identify who they want to speak to, identify what goals they want to achieve from networking regularly, consistently is some of the big points as well, I believe. And I think what you just mentioned there, 100% agreement with you.
Yeah. But I guess if people say, well, I don't know who I'm going to meet, what would you say to that? How can you plan to meet people that you don't know who are going to be there?
Well, you've got to be asked the right questions. So part of it, the real big part of it is planning beforehand. Take a bit of time. Don't just rock up to a networking event and expect it just to happen straight away, just out of magic. That was a magic little sound there, by the way. But at the end of the day, you've got to put the plan and the preparation in place before going to a network event. Identify your industry. Identify who your ideal client is going to be. Because if you don't ask the question to the people that you're meeting, they've got a plethora, a smorgasbord, a chapter full book of people you can speak to. So if you don't ask the right questions, or you haven't done the right preparation beforehand, are you really going to capture the right audience that you're trying to speak to?
Yeah, I do find that if I found an event on Eventbrite or LinkedIn, you can see who's attending. So apart from if the subject or the location really interests you, if you connect or review who's going and think, oh, actually, I've seen those people around and I've been wanting to connect to them. So, like when I came to the Revitalise event on end of last year, there were people like Ruby, and we've just been missing each other. I was just like, oh, and we were so lucky to sit next to each other, so we did manage to have a conversation. So it is about planning, it is about looking who's going to be there, and reaching out to the leader of the event as well, and connecting with them.
Yeah, I mean that's a real big one as well. There's many people out there as well, Julia. That's a real little hot potato to really talk about, right? There's many people don't even reach out to the organizer. They don't reach out to the person who runs the events or who's the head of the whole organization and tap in to let them know who they're looking to speak to.
Yeah.
Many people, when they reach out to the organizers and the main runners of the events or even the organizations, they'll identify people that'll make your life a lot easier and network and say, right, there's 3 people you need to speak to at this event.
Yeah.
And if it's face to face, you get the best amount of time. Time's the biggest commodity to meet the right people. Yeah.
Yeah. And we actually set up a group here as well, because we found that support was not there for entrepreneurs, small businesses. So it was pre-pandemic. We worked with some other people that were passionate about small businesses. So we've really been growing that network, haven't we, Louisa?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, I mean, we set up a network to fill a gap that we identified in part by talking to the city here and saying, well, this is our journey. Where do you fit us? And they went, well, we kind of don't. We went, well, we'll rectify that. We'll set up our own group and help other people like us that are expats, internationals. They've come here. They're English speakers. That they find that they don't really have a voice in the Dutch groups here. And it's been great. We've really started to build a network, but our network's, I think, a little different to yours, Lee. We've got a free network versus your free and paid network. What would be the appeal of looking at a paid group versus a free group?
There's one thing it's a great question as well, Louisa. I look at Revitalise, there's different layers to Revitalise, there's different products and value that's actually inside there. Revitalise is not just a networking event or community, it's also part of a program that's in there as well. So there's a real learning knowledge base that's built into it. Plus also a lot of the paid events have other sort of support tools thrown in for good measure, whereas you're actually going to be working with other people in there, or you're going to be identifying who you want to speak to. One thing Revitalise, it's opened up. There's a lot in the background that makes it work even more. Other activities, other events. There's not just one event every month or one event every week. There's other activities to get involved with for everybody to be more visible, active, and engaged within their network itself. Normally, what you'll find is if you're paying an investment, you're paying for investment for more value and also more time to be visible to your connections in there as well.
Yeah, and I think that's where you find groups that may not be as visible, is because they're not getting paid for their time. So their investment in the group might not be, for a free group, might not be as big as someone who is running a paid group. So I think if you sort of evaluate what sort of the bones of a group, if you're looking to join a network, sort of look at is the person who's running it pretty much full time for that group, or are they running another business alongside it? Because I think that will tell you how much time and energy they'll be able to put into it. And not that I'm saying a group that has someone who does a full-time job isn't going to be great. It's about that ability to provide more events, to provide opportunities, to be always talking to people, to spark conversations. It doesn't always, and people say, oh, this group isn't very active. It's like, have you contacted the person running it, said, is everything all right? What do you need to help grow this group? If you really believe in it, there's an opportunity to sort of connect with people who run groups as well, and say, how can we be more visible? How can we bring in other people that I can then network with?
Yeah.
It isn't just about one person or a couple of people that are responsible for everyone in that group. It has to be a bit of give and take too.
Yeah.
And I think people lose sight of that when they say, you haven't given me what I was expecting. And it's like, well, what were your expectations when you first came in here?
Here's a great one for you, Louise, and you've tapped on something that's extremely interesting, especially when you look to how you find your network. I love to use this analogy, and I use it quite regularly. So bear with me with this one. So if you went to a gym, you'd pay a membership to a gym, and that gym will give you all the tools you need to use. You'll have the relaxing area, you've got your cardiovascular, you've got your weight training, you've got everything you can use within a gym itself. You get from it what you put into it. And it's the same with any gym. If you turn to the gym with your kit bag and just decide to go to the coffee shop, yeah, you can meet some few people having a conversation, but you're not benefiting anything from the gym itself. A networking organization is exactly the same that way. Each networking organization has different elements that will benefit you and also your business. But if you put nothing into it, will you get something back in return? Probably not. It's a bit like putting a gym bag in the back of your car and deciding, I'll not bother going to the gym tonight. And you leave it all week. By the end of the week, you benefited nothing from it whatsoever. But if you decide to take your gym bag out of the car, go to the gym, start using the machines, do a bit of cardio, do a bit of weight training, do some stretches, going for a swim. By the end of the week, you'll either, number one, lose some weight. Number two, feel a lot fitter in yourself. And number three, be more mentally capable to deal with many things. It gives you mental clarity when you do that. And it's the same with networking. If you're actively involved with the social media, you're actively involved with the groups, you're having multiple conversations, you're asking the right questions to get the right responses back. It's not rocket science, but I don't want me saying that. You will get something from it. They'll introduce you to somebody, but it's all about that educational piece. So I think networking in general, you've got to put something into it to get something back in return from it. Would you not agree?
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about the sort of mental benefits you mentioned there, and it's that whole, you can get so sort of stuck down your channel, you just sat at home thinking, I think this is the right thing, but it's not really happening. Now there's going to be other business owners that feel the same way, so why not ask other people? And there's no shame of reaching out and asking the question. And also, if they're in different industries, then a problem shared is a problem halved. But also we've heard of stories actually across the central belt of Scotland where somebody said, I don't like dealing with this part of my business, and they said, oh, I love doing that part, but I don't like this part. And there's opportunities. It's just like, you just don't know until you've gone there, you've actually made the effort and got dressed and left the house, or actually turned up to the virtual meeting, and to have that conversation, just to be honest and open.
It's a really good point as well, Julie, you bring into that one, because a lot of people think, right, I'm going networking and I want to get business from the networking. And it's business, business, business. The biggest commodity, the most richest commodity that we've got is time and knowledge. A lot of networks, it's not just about the business, it's about the people within the group. It's about the untapped knowledge, experience, skills that are actually in the network itself. I see many people getting more out of the skills, techniques, and knowledge from a network than business. Business happens organically, happens from there. And that's what you tapped on, just rewinding slightly about mental preparation. It's having people where you can make a phone call to, have a conversation with, gets you back in the right space, the right area, to share a challenge that you're having right now, to have not just one person help you, but 10 people in a group to really put their thought and their brain swarming. I used to love that word in corporate, brain swarming together to help you to actually get over a challenge that's in there as well. I think networking is a lot more than just getting a business opportunity and cash into the business. It's also about that knowledge base, about that support structure, and most importantly, about being there to help one another. Really is a big, big point indeed, Julie.
with our group, with Small Business Connections, we actually don't allow people to free advertise. We've got very strict conditions, and people get quite huffy with us every so often because they'll go, "You deleted my post." We said, "It's nothing, nothing wrong with you. It's just you posted it on the wrong day," because we don't want this overwhelm of self-promotion, and that's not what the group is about. It's supporting, helping people to grow together as businesses. There is no other group for this. We do have a business that we're running side by side, so we're putting in the time that we can, but it's all about helping each other. So we encourage people to talk to each other. They talk through about the problems, but don't just say, "Oh, you have a problem. My business can solve this." All it's not just about what your business can do for someone. It's about, let's talk through the problems, and is there someone that that can help you? And I think people tend to lose sight too of what platform you're on may dictate how you act in networking.
Yeah.
For instance, with Facebook, it's you tend to want to promote yourself. You're not really maybe there for others all the time. I think
Yeah.
LinkedIn, you are talking about your business, but you're talking about um, a situation in business, or something that you either want to explain to people, tell them about, share with them.
Mm.
YouTube, your how to's, you're talking how to solve a problem. So I think the platform can also dictate how a network may work, and what the objectives are behind it. Because I know a lot of the time you're in a Facebook group, and then every single solvable post is, "Here is my business network, come and join this." And, because that's who's running it, is someone who runs a network that they want you to then go and pay to be on that network. And I
Correct.
find very limited support there, because it's essentially, "Oh, you have a problem, here's my group to go and solve it for you." It's not necessarily sparking conversation that I would expect. So I think online versus face to face can be quite different. Your approach might be quite different. And I think the strategy might be slightly different too. So platforms can vary quite wildly about how you act.
Mm.
And I think that's also important to keep in mind, that networks and networking groups will vary from where you're networking as much as
Correct.
anything else.
I think there's a good mix there, Louisa. And when you look at the mix between the hybrid role between online and offline, it's such a powerful component and mix together now, working online, having those first initial meetings. And also, as a point you touched on briefly into that as well, by giving first, giving something to a connection, to give them that helping hand to lift them up into a place where they can move on to their next level. That should be part and parcel of what you offer on that one as well. And I think it's that regularity of having that support structure, that help desk mentality, that we're there to help each other and support each other. I think that's so refreshing to hear that even from yourself as well. And, Julie found that out coming to a face-to-face environment in Edinburgh last year, coming to Scotland, flying over, meeting people, yes, face-to-face, but actually putting a face to the picture that was on a screen, a little square that's on there. Wow, you're really that tall. But again, it's no, not. But it's opening up the conversation that way. I think that's a really, really important part in that. And I think it's important that we address that a lot when it comes to that online networking as such, and especially what you said with Facebook groups. Facebook groups are there a lot at the moment. All due respect, a lot are very good. There's a lot there that sell to the room.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them sell to the room. So it should be a two-way street. It should be helping each other. But also, there's another great analogy I like to use as well, if you don't want me sharing this with you both this afternoon. How to find your network. Many people find the network, right? But as I said before, you've got farmers and you've got hunters. And if you're a farmer, you should be nurturing your field. I like to use analogies, anybody who's watching and listening today as well, right? A great quote comes from a chap called Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn does some great talks online. Have a check him out on YouTube. But there's one he talks about the field. And this is my take from Jim Rohn with his field. If you're planting the seeds in your field, that is you nurturing your network. That's you having the conversations. You then start really watering, feeding the produce, letting it grow through. then you're going to reap from the harvest. The harvest is going to grow, but you've got to maintain that field and manage it regularly and consistently. What a lot of people do in networking, when they find the network, they go and find another one and then another one. And the first field they worked on then gets left to one side. Start working on the other fields. The balance isn't right there. You can't manage it. And I think that's a really important thing to think about when you start networking. It's if you're working on something, work on it. Maintain it, grow it, develop it. And when you get it that strong, you can then work on the next one. But as soon as it starts to feel stretched and you can't deal with it as much, go back to the two fields you've been working on, because people disappear from them. And here's the thing that happens, everybody. I love this quote from Jim Rohn. Now and again, if you leave your field alone and you think you've built it strong enough, there's going to be many birds that will come down and pinch all your seeds. Love that. They'll pinch your seeds and disappear with it. So when you go back in your field, there's no harvest. Nothing's happened. Because there's other people come in and take away your seeds if you haven't worked with them properly. I like to use that bit as well. When you find a network, keep hold of it.
And just want to thank the people joining us today. So Simone has mentioned that the gym analogy, Lee, that's a really good one. Networking certainly is an active event, which is totally true. You can't just turn up and then sit at the back and expect the magic to happen. And also comment from Ian. Thank you for joining us, Ian McPherson. Good point, Louisa. Totally agree. And also around the free events, maybe full of hunters. That is true. Watch out for the hunters. That is good.
Well, I think that just about wraps up our session today. I think both our networks are very different. I think we've established there's a lot of variations, but our passion behind them is what drives them forward. And our want to give to others, I think, comes through in those networks. So if you're interested, check out Revitalise Connecting People. And if you're in the Netherlands, Small Business Connections. Tomorrow we have an amazing guest coming up, Amanda Johnson. She's a VA coach, a virtual assistant coach, trainer and mentor. She was actually my mentor when I went through my virtual assistant certification a couple of years ago. She's all about know, like, trust. I mean, that's her mantra. That's what she's built on. And she's really grown, a network of thousands of virtual assistants who, need a little bit of help and support when they first start out. But as they grow, they flourish. And I think Amanda's story will be really wonderful to share tomorrow. So we're at, correct me if I'm wrong, 3:30 p.m. GMT tomorrow.
That's correct.
I'm right. Yep.
That's correct.
I think our conversation today hopefully has warmed people up for a great week of conversation of how to find your network.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's going to be an exciting week. We've got 3 wonderful guests coming along this week on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Myself, Julie, and Louisa will be wrapping everything up in a nice tidy bow by the end of the week on Friday, just to wrap all the sort of feedback and everything throughout the week of what you're going to experience. So as Louisa said, don't forget, join us tomorrow afternoon at 3:30, where we'll get the chance to hear from Amanda Johnson, who is a VA coach and a trainer and mentor to many, many people on how to find your network and to be able to network more effectively. Thank you very much. And Julie, would you like to say anything else before we wrap things up?
No, I just want to thank everybody for coming today and hope you can join us on the rest of the events this week. So keep networking.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Louisa. Thanks, Julie. And thank you to everybody who's joined us this afternoon for Network Now. And don't forget, keep connecting, everybody. Take care. See you all soon. Bye-bye for now.
Cheers. Bye.